Welcome to, or welcome back to, the Agatha May Detective Agency. I'm Agatha May, and this episode is the tale of the traitorous trio. I had started working on a video about the packets that were given to the protesters by Judge Agatha when they were in court on February 20th. The packets included emails and messages between John Paul Miller, Melissa the Paralegal Bankari, and TrueCrimeRi. Melissa had sent an email to Judge Agatha claiming that John Paul Miller was demanding that she testify for him in court and that he wanted her to lie, and he said that he would drop her lawsuit and pay her if she did. She attached the emails and screenshots of the text messages so Judge Agatha could see them. I'm not sure she expected the judge to hand them out like they were swag bags, though. Melissa stated in her email to the judge that it was a critical message, but she waited until February 11th to send it, even though she had all the information from John Paul by the 7th. Super critical and important. As I was working on the video, the big lawsuit against John Paul Miller hit and I got sidetracked. And then there was the court hearing for the restraining orders that John Paul lost, and I got sidetracked again. Since the emails had to do with the court hearing, some of what I was going to say isn't so important anymore. But I still want to look at some of the emails and messages in the aftermath of them being released. I posted a short video about the email that kicked off the exchange between John Paul and Melissa that Melissa had sent to Judge Agatha. This was the first email in the packet that the protesters received, and it was sent on February 7th, 2025 at 10:53 a.m., and it was from John Paul, and the subject line, "Who is this on June 2nd, please?" And it had a photo of one of the protesters attached. Melissa replied to that email and started with, "Hey, I'm so sorry. I had a hectic day and just seeing this." So let's play make-believe for a minute. Pretend you're in imagination land. And in imagination land, you aren't having any communication with John Paul Miller. You've heard a rumor that he filed a $6 million lawsuit against you, but in imagination land, you don't care about lawsuits, so you never even look into it. Then one day, John Paul messages you out of the blue and asks you to identify a person from a photo. Would your response actually be, "Hey, I'm so sorry, I had a hectic day and just seeing this"? Or would it be, "Why in the heckity-heck are you emailing me? I don't want anything to do with you. Go away, you kooky little freak man." Or something like that. Are we supposed to believe that John Paul just messaged her a request to identify a protester for him without there being any preceding emails or conversations? He just popped right into her inbox with a photo ID request. That just doesn't sound right to me. Melissa continued her reply to John Paul. "If you don't mind, I've seen the rumors about a lawsuit that you filed against me, but I have not seen any documents to that effect. So I'm not sure what is going on, but am I understanding the situation right, that you're willing to drop the alleged lawsuit in exchange for my help with your hearings? I just want to talk to you directly so I don't misunderstand anything. If you don't mind confirming that, I would really appreciate just having a clear understanding." Girl, please. Everyone knows the minute you heard about a lawsuit, you ran straight to the Horry County website to download it, just like the rest of us did. So John Paul answered her, but he doesn't explain the lawsuit to her. He doesn't ever say, "Yeah, I did file a lawsuit against you, paralegal lady who I've never talked to before today, and it was for $6 million too. He just tells her that if she'll tell the truth, he'll drop it and he will bless her, which coming from him sounds super icky. There were a few more emails between the two about the court hearing, with Ree being included but never joining in. Not once did John Paul come out and say, "Lie for me on the stand and I'll pay you money and drop your lawsuit." He worded his emails carefully enough that he wasn't risking any kind of bribery charges. And I'm not sure why, but Melissa kept talking about witness tampering. But in order for that to happen, she would have had to have already been a witness, and she wasn't. You'd think someone who had been a paralegal for 80 years, or however long it is now, would know that you have to have already been subpoenaed as a witness in order for there to be a witness to tamper with. Maybe she did know and knew it was all a bunch of balderdash and hogwash, and John Paul wouldn't actually get in trouble for it. Melissa filed police reports on February 12th about John Paul's supposed witness tampering. The strange thing is is that it doesn't look like she mentioned John Paul by name. I made a screen recording of how you look up an incident report from Myrtle Beach PD. I used an incident report that Micah filed about John Paul taking her car while she was in the hospital. So I searched for this incident report using John Paul's name and the month of February 2024. And this is the report that comes up. Now, when I search for Micah's name on the same date, the same report shows up. Neither of their names are actually shown on the PDF that you can download of the report, but I know they were both involved in the incident since I can find the report under either of their names. When I searched for the reports where Melissa had called about the emails from John Paul, I found 2 of them, but if I search for those reports using John Paul's name, nothing shows up. It's a weird thing. The dates are messed up too. The reporting date was originally 12/19/2025, but Melissa said that she had called them to correct the dates to 2/12/2025. But they didn't correct the date in the narrative section of the report. Having errors in any document that Horry County and Myrtle Beach puts out isn't unheard of. But I'm not sure when Melissa actually called the police department. I'm not sure that when she called to correct the incident report, they even cared enough to double-check to make sure what the correct date was. There were also screenshots of text messages between Melissa and TrueCrimeRi that were shared in the packet, and I don't think Ri liked them being shared because she made a revenge video about Melissa. It's since been taken down, but it had a recording of Melissa talking about Regina Ward, and it wasn't Melissa saying how pretty Regina's hair is and wondering what kind of conditioner she uses either. In the recording, Melissa claimed that Regina is friends with 5 of the FBI agents investigating John Paul, and that she and Sarah Watley, Melissa's former employer, are friends with Hayes Stanton, who was on the bar review board. She claimed that Sarah had some clients complain about some things, and Hayes Stanton called Sarah telling her about it, and it was, quote, just things you're not supposed to do when you're serving on the bar, end quote. Yeah, Hayes, if that's your real name. Melissa was pretty much accusing Regina, Sarah, and Hayes of being up to some funny business. She also said that the only reason she didn't ever report Regina is because she knew it wouldn't go anywhere. Sure, Melissa. In reality, Hayes Stanton is on the Resolution of Fee Disputes Board, which mediates disputes when clients think they were unfairly charged by their attorney. So not exactly what Melissa was making it sound like. There was also a screenshot on Ri's revenge video of a text message where Melissa was asking Ri if the FBI would show Regina stuff, and she got worried when Ri told her the FBI was all up in John Paul's phone. Here's what Melissa wrote. I'm worried about her, meaning Regina Ward, finding out about emails. Can she see them? I'm feeling so paranoid the more I think of how corrupt she is. And Ri replied that she couldn't, and then Melissa replied with, promise, because they're in his phone. It sounds like maybe Melissa had some things in the emails that she didn't want Regina to see. I'd go as far to say that it sounds like she was very upset about the thought that Regina might have seen things that she wrote about her. It might have been things similar to what she was saying about her in the recording. So Melissa has claimed that she's done all this as some big plan to catch John Paul. And if so, she wouldn't be worried about Regina seeing what she wrote because she'd be able to explain exactly what was going on to Regina, and Regina would be like, no prob, Bob, and by the way, I use L'Oreal conditioner because I'm worth it. And then they'd fist bump and go on their merry ways. Regina has energetically denied what Melissa said about her. Maybe Melissa was more worried about the FBI seeing what she'd written. Melissa left some comments on Ri's revenge video that were pretty interesting too. And the reason she left these comments is because she doesn't know when to stop talking. One comment was, quote, Ri states he, John Paul, is being investigated for trafficking and fraud, end quote. Well, how would Ri know that? In fact, how would John Paul know that? The search warrant was sealed. Did someone leak it? Or is John Paul telling on himself? Or maybe he's been questioned by the FBI and knows what they're looking at. Melissa also commented, quote, "I was asked to play along by an attorney, not Regina, in order to get JP to put the bribe in writing to me directly without using third-party cover, which worked," end quote. Did it, though? The only attorneys that would care about catching John Paul offering bribes in exchange for testimony are the ones representing defendants in the lawsuits. And I think both of them knew John Paul didn't stand a chance in court, mostly because he was representing himself, and he's pretty bad at it. Melissa is trying to make it out like she was playing a long game with John Paul and Ree. But why would she do that? She started talking to Ree in September, and John Paul didn't file any lawsuits against the protesters until January. So is Melissa omniscient and knew that he was going to file lawsuits and knew she'd be able to trip him up? And while she was waiting on him to file those lawsuits, she was busy befriending Ree. In fact, she went so far as to help Ree with a photo for a video. Do you know how Ree was obsessed with Casey from So-Called Mess for a few months? Melissa took photos of Casey while she was at Walmart and then sent them to Ree, allegedly. It was creepy. There was actually a photo that was taken over Casey's shoulder to show what she had pulled up on her phone. Yikes. Personal space, Melissa. Melissa even sent a message to Casey that same night about how she saw her at Walmart, and wouldn't you know it, it just happened to be in the same aisle that the photos were taken in. She told Casey how much she admired her, and how pretty she was, and how she wants to come over and play mystery date and giggle about boys. Okay, maybe they weren't really going to play the mystery date game, but I don't think Melissa was playing any long game either. I'm not sure why John Paul was asking her to testify in the first place. She had only gone to one protest, and I know she acts like she knows a lot about the protesters, but does she really? Did John Paul think Melissa would testify for him because she was already doing other favors for him? Besides identifying protesters, and speaking of, where's the email where she actually answered his question about who that protester was? Anyway, besides identifying protesters, was she possibly running license plates for him? I mean, she was already doing it for Robbie Harvey and offered to do it for Guru, so what's one more? And why wasn't Melissa ever served with a summons for the lawsuit that John Paul had filed against her? Did he use a fake address like he did on some of the other lawsuits, so she couldn't be served? There was an attempt to serve her at one of the protests, but she wasn't there. And in South Carolina, you can also have someone served by certified mail. So why didn't John Paul do that? I think if he was serious about his $6 million lawsuit, he would have found a way to get those papers to her. I know some of you believe Melissa and you think she was playing chess, but I have trouble believing that. Even her changing her TikTok profile image to a chess piece didn't convince me. She has been caught in lies. On Steph's case files, she said she'd been a paralegal for 22 years. But in the recording that Ree had played on her video, she said it was 17 years. I know she's lied to other people about when she started talking to Ree, and according to Regina Ward, what Melissa has said about her were all lies. And her stories are over the top at best. She was interviewed and went on lives talking about things she shouldn't talk about. Does anyone really believe that any attorney would give the go-ahead for her to talk badly about someone, even if they were only a potential client? It doesn't look professional and casts the law firm in a bad light. Who would want to call for a consultation if they'd have to be worried that what they said might be blasted on the internet? Melissa has claimed that she has deep connections and that, quote, "I have people in the building packing heat that are just ready to jump upstairs," end quote. Why would you say that? It makes you sound unhinged. She's also claimed that she was the lead paralegal on the Deepwater Horizon movie. I don't know what she's talking about. I've looked it up and I can't find any attorney's office where she was living at the time that worked on the movie. Back in early September, she claimed she was filing something against John Paul, but didn't specify what. We still haven't seen a single court document that shows that. And she was adamant that TrueCrimeRi wasn't the person everyone was claiming she was, and that it had been thoroughly investigated. Well, whoever investigated it was wrong. I think that either Melissa has been in cahoots with John Paul since the beginning, or she reached out to Ree after learning about the lawsuit John Paul filed against her in an attempt to ingratiate herself to him. Maybe she and John Paul worked out a deal then. She would provide him information and he wouldn't pursue the lawsuit. And I think once she learned that the FBI and Regina Ward might be privy to the emails that were shared between the traitorous trio, she decided to change up her game to cover her own backside. Did whatever game she was playing pan out for her? I don't think it did. Ree is now claiming she was duped by John Paul and she has him blocked. Melissa has stopped talking for the time being, and John Paul, unfortunately, is still being John Paul. This entire situation was just a debacle, and this trio is exhausting. There are a few morals to this story, and they are: don't trust people you shouldn't trust. Keep your mouth shut when you should. Don't try to play a game you've never played before. And use L'Oreal conditioner because you're worth it. The individuals I've spoken about in this video are innocent until proven guilty. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment as this helps my channel grow. Until next time, stay safe and be happy.